Welcome back to Surviving and Thriving, where we share with you all the things that we have learned as we have transitioned our family from struggling to survive disease to thriving right smack dab in the midst of it, in the hopes that something that we share with you will help you, enlighten you, and encourage you as you transition your family from struggling to survive disease to thriving right smack dab in the midst of it. I want to share with you 2 lessons today. 2 things that I've learned from my grandparents. Now, you guys, I've been blessed. I have really good grandparents. And I was very close, particularly to my mom's parents, my maternal grandparents, very close with them, and learned a lot from them. But there's 2 lessons that I want to share with you. One from my mother's mom and one from my dad's dad. So stick with me, and you'll see what I'm talking about here in a minute. I want to share this with you. My grandmother was awesome, right? She was a big part of my life growing up, and she had my mother's back while we were growing up and we were younger. As we got older and, times and seasons changed, my mom and my grandmother relationship seemed closer and closer and tighter. My mom had my grandmother's back and my grandmother had my mom back. They were like ace boom coons, right? They were close, they were tight knit. And my mother took care of my grandmother. She took care of my grandfather too, both of them. But she took care of my grandmother a lot. She sacrificed for my grandmother a lot as my grandmother health was failing. And when my grandmother was transitioning right out of this world, she didn't always say some nice things to my mother, which is kind of surprising, being as though they loved each other so much and she was so they were so close, right? But some of the things she didn't say, she said, wasn't really nice. And I heard some things on the phone because I was in another state, and I would say, wow, that's kind of rough. And sometimes when I talked to my grandmother, I heard her say something kind of rough, and I know some of that stuff hurt my mom's feelings. I want to talk to you about that, right? If you're the person who's going through a health issue, okay, I'm sure you've experienced this at some point in time. I know I have experienced this, right? Where there's times where you want to blame somebody for what you're going through, where the pain, the anger, the hurt, the frustration, you want to transmit that to someone else who it ain't really due to a lot of the times, most of the times. You want to blame somebody though, right? I know there's been times where I've been angry with my husband and I sat there and I thought about stuff and then I had to correct myself, right? He didn't do this. He didn't cause this. I can't blame him for that, right? We did what we knew was best. He thought he did what was best. What does that have to do with what I'm going through? I would be going through this whether that happened or not. It has nothing to do with him. And I would have to talk myself back into reality. Sometimes when you're going through a lot and you're full of pain and you're hurting and you want to lash out at people, you have to talk yourself back to reality, because you can't really blame people for what you're going through. And part of that anger and that frustration is, number one, you don't want to be mad at yourself. You don't want to be like, well, if I would have ate right, didn't smoke, didn't do that, did this or whatever, and be mad at yourself. That's too much. You can't really handle that. You don't really want to be mad at God, right? Especially when you know that your life is kind of on the line, that you could slip out. You don't want to be mad at God because, whether you believe in him or not, you're trying to keep your spirit right, because you're hoping you don't go somewhere you don't want to go, right? And so you don't really want to be angry with God. And most of us are taught, you can't be mad at God. So you don't really want to be like, God, I'm mad at you. So you got to find a place to lash out. And if you look throughout history, if you look throughout the Bible, right, whenever someone is sent to be a deliverer, whenever somebody is there to help somebody through something, that is the people usually, when they get angry or hurt, they turn on the person that's sent to help them, the person who's loving them most, the person that's closest to them. That's a natural tendency of people. So for us that are going through things, we got to be mindful of that, okay? And know that there is that tendency to want to blame somebody, but we can't blame anybody. You know what we got to do? We got to deal with our emotions, deal with the truth of what we are going through. I've had to do this a lot, you guys, okay? So I'm not telling you something that I haven't experienced. Now, with my grandmother and with my mom, right? My grandmother wasn't mad at my mom. My grandmother loves my mom. Oh my gosh, her love for my mom is something fierce. She loved my mom, and my mom loved my grandmother. My grandmother was hurting, And the easiest person to lash out at was the one who was walking through it with her. The one who she really didn't want to hurt was the one that was easier to hurt. So Mama, if you're hearing this, I'm sorry, but I can tell you from experience, Grandma loved you. And if she said anything to hurt you, she really didn't mean it, right? The other thing is my granddaddy, right? My grandparents, the majority of them, they just passed. I have 5 grandparents. 4 of them just passed within the few recent years. But I had one of my grandfathers, my granddaddy, he died when I was a little girl. When I was a little girl, I loved going over to my grandmother's house because my granddaddy was fun. He laughed with us, he joked with us, he'd sit at the piano with us. We get to bang on it and sing on it. And we loved him. I can still see in my mind's eye, him sitting at the table or we're sitting on the couch and he's standing behind the couch with his hands on the back of the couch talking to us. And he loved my mom and my mom loved him. And I loved my granddaddy, right? Now, it's interesting because I have the memories. I remember his face. I remember his smile. I remember these events, but I don't really remember the things he said. And I don't really remember his voice. What I do remember very strongly, more so than all those good memories, is that when his health turned, that the grandfather I knew changed. We couldn't laugh in the house. He didn't sit at the piano with us no more. We weren't even allowed at the piano. From the time his health changed till present day, I have not been able to touch that piano. We could not touch that piano anymore, right? And I remember having to, kind of sneak past his bed to go say hi to my grandmother, having to be quiet and running up to see him, being excited to see him when he would pull up at the church or see him at my grandmother's house and there was no hug, there was no love, there was a lot of grumping and a get away from me kind of thing. And it was very hurtful. And it was like, what happened? And I remember thinking, what did we do that he doesn't like us anymore, right? So he was like that for a while. And I remember when my dad picked us up so we could go and say goodbye to him because he was transitioning from this world. Now here it is, right? 30 some odd years later. And I can still see in my mind's eye the good times with my grandfather. But more vividly to me are the times when things changed. And his attitude and his personality towards us changed, right? Why am I sharing this with you? Well, the lesson that I learned from my granddaddy is this. All the good deeds you do, the good person that you are, all the love that you share, it can get squashed and it can get lost in the meanness, in the vindictiveness, in the hatefulness, in the anger, in the bitterness of the time of when you have health changes until you transition out of this world. You don't want to have your life and all your good works and all your good deeds to be erased, right? Because of the change in personality and the attitude and the negativity and the spite and the anger that you shared and that you displayed before you leave this earth. So just because you're having health issues, you still gotta be mindful. I know sometimes it's painful and sometimes I'm tired and I'm struggling through stuff and stuff don't come out right. And I always got to go back and say, you know what, I'm sorry, that did not come out right. And I am known for letting people know, you guys, I'm struggling right now, I'm pushing right now. So if it don't come out right, I'm not trying to be that way. I'm in pain, I'm hurting, I'm tired, right? And I try to make sure people are aware. But even though I make sure they're aware, I try to guard my tongue, guard the things that I'm saying and the things that I am doing. And a lot of times they'll come back and tell me, we are not noticing anything. I might be feeling it, maybe sounding that way to me, but they're not seeing it. Why? Because I'm working on that thing. I'm making sure that I'm not displaying something negative. I don't want to ever wipe out the good that I did. Now, I still remember the good my grandfather did, but very little. I remember more so the negative encounters with him. You don't want all your life's work, your life's goodness, your life positive things to be wiped out by the negativity of something that you're going through. So those are 2 lessons that I learned from my grandmother, right? So if you're a caregiver and you're someone who's tending people who are going through, or if you're someone that is a loved one of someone who's going through, sometimes negativity is going to come at you. I know it hurts and I know it's not right, but don't take it personal. They're human. That person that's going through that you love, they're human, and they're having human responses, right? And it's sometimes hard. And sometimes people don't even know that they're acting that way or to correct themselves. And sometimes people do know, but give them some leeway and don't take it personal. If you're the person who's going through something, watch yourself. Don't slash everybody and kill everybody and knock them down with your words or with your actions before you leave this earth. You want to know that your legacy on this earth is a good one and that your name is going to be remembered. You know, you may not be in a history book, right? But you are in the history book in the annals of the people that you know. Because your name can still be lasting beyond you being here, right? My grandparents, my great-grandparents, my great-grandparents never got to meet my children. But they do. My children do know about my great-grandmother. They do know the stories and things that I have to say because that memory lives on because I'm alive. And so my children may be able to tell them information about their great-great-grandmother who they never met. But the reason why that my grandkids or my great-grandkids will be able to know about my great-grandmother is because I'm sharing the stories. I'm sharing that testimony. So you want that your legacy to expand the generations to be good, not to be bad. So just be mindful. Don't hurt the people that are closest to you, that are helping you through this. And if you're feeling those negative feelings, you got to deal with it. You got to deal with it. If you know that you're leaving this earth, you don't want to leave here with your spirit all jacked up and messy. I believe that when you leave this earth, you're either present with the Lord or you somewhere you don't want to be, right? And I know some people believe that, you know, you transition and you get a chance to get it right. I don't know nothing about that. I don't believe that personally, and I'm not here to argue that with you. You may be right, but guess what? If you're not right, I just don't want to take that chance. I don't want to take the chance of saying that, you know, I'll have a chance to get it right once I leave here. I'd rather leave here in the right place and know where I'm going than to have to chance stuff once I'm not here. That's just too risky for me. But you do what's best for you. But you got to deal with your emotions, and you want to leave this earth with your spirit clean. If you have to transition from life into eternity, you want to have your spirit clean, and you don't want to risk, right, damnation. It's just what it is, right? So I hope something in there was helpful for you. Remember, in all things, do you. Until next time. Bye.